Going to forego the moment of silence. Okay, we'll call this meeting to order at 5:15. There are no adjustments to the agenda that I'm aware of, other than the conflict of goings on here with Zoom. We will have that straightened out at the next meeting. I promise you. I'll come in at 2, make sure we have it ready. I'm not the guru, but we got to make sure this all works. New business, first review of budgets. I'm going to turn it over to the town manager. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. What I intend to do with the help of the department heads that are present tonight is give you an introduction or an introductory presentation to the fiscal year 22 operating budget. We're going to go through the items listed on your agenda, the operating items. We'll finish those in a future meeting, and then we'll talk about capital at the end of that. So the first item in your binder on page 1 is the selectmen account. I'll give everybody a moment to find that. There are no changes. The first change is 0508 HRA account. That's a health reimbursement account. That has something to do with the fact we've taken on a new employee. Rebecca, is there any other explanation you can give us for the increase of 33% in that line?
For selectmen, we don't, what I have for selectmen is we added $3,000 in consultant services fees for broadband.
Okay.
That's what that is. And then that was the major change in selectmen.
Okay. What's the next one? So we talked about HRA. That's up 33%. The next change is in computer supplies, and you'll see, Mr. Chair, as we go through the budgets, this year we've consolidated some computer items. As we go through the budget, you'll see that iPads for the selectmen we're not purchasing this year. That's the decrease, the 68% decrease. We did, however, put in an amount for certain supplies in case you have to update one, or if one gets damaged. So there's a $600 amount in there. So overall supplies is down 55%. On the next page, on page 3, the recommendation is to take out the land lease amount. This used to be used for the lease of parking on Depot Street and also the IGA parking. As you know, this winter, we've been presented with signed the last version of the IGA lease that is now owned by the noise agency. So that 3523 is down to 0. I don't know of any other land leases that you'll be contemplating this year. Consultant services, Rebecca had noted this. Through the broadband discussions, we've thought that we might need some consultant work for the review or implementation. So I'm not talking about right now, obviously, because this is fiscal year 22. But as we move forward with broadband, if we find ourselves at a spot where we've got a series of proposals that need professional review, or we want to implement something, I've put in 3,000 there. The 9,500 that's in there is the HR consultant service. That is the same. So essentially that whole thing is down just over 1%. On page 4, there is something I want to point out. Oh wait, that ends the, sorry about that. That ends the selectmen portion. The next item is administration, and that begins on page 4. And I've got a little mark here on 0502, which is health insurance. There's a 25% reduction there. That was based on my current status. That is going to change. So the amount should stay the same where it is in this year's budget or something near that. So unfortunately, there won't be a 25% reduction there. Let's see. The rest of those are insurance related, so those will end up back close to where they're at now. Page 5. This is where you see the first one of the first increases in computer supplies. This COVID has taught us a few things about the need for technology, and even outside of COVID, it's very important. But what I'm proposing in 1502 is a laptop for Tracy, for the assistant town manager, and I believe there's a cell phone doesn't come in here, but it does come up eventually. So this is a laptop. What else do we have? Let me go to page 6. This is where the cell phone comes in. I knew it was here somewhere. And it won't just be for Tracy, as you see through the budget. I'm proposing it for a couple other department heads also. So computers is down 100%. This is the 2502. And the reason I'm proposing that we consolidate this, I met with Rebecca and Keith. And what we want to do, Keith has got a quote or an estimate to have our computer maintenance and so forth done in a lump sum through contract. So that's kind of what we're shooting at here. It's down, but it's going to appear in a future account.
Joe, let me interrupt for a second.
Yes.
It appears to me that if somebody needs clarification, we need to find a way to do that. Those that are on the screen, I can see your hands or I'll be able to hear you. However, Denise, if you need to have clarification, call me on my cell phone, please, and then I can relay it. I'm going to assume you can hear me, so take this number down. 557-0743, and then I'll get your question asked. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the computer line, I talked about that. Let's go to page, actually, that's the end of administration. One thing I kind of want to go, I'll go back to the beginning. I didn't mention this. I have, because this is the first time it'll come up in a series of accounts, I've plugged in a 2% across the board cost of living adjustment. I would like to, based on what comes out of performance evaluations, would like to discuss with you folks later on about putting an amount to be determined aside so that I can kind of distribute that based on merit throughout the year. That hasn't come up yet, but the 2% will be recurring across departments for non-union. So there's administration, which that ended on page 6. Page 7 begins assessing. I believe they need a computer. Yes, that's in here. That needs to be replaced. One of the things that Rebecca and Keith and I talked about was eventually getting all of these in a reserve program, but for this year, they do need a replacement computer. So that's in here. See, page 8. No major changes there. This, Rebecca, am I correct that the assessing service is due to be out for RFP this year? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have reason to believe that that's going to remain fairly stable.
I do have reason to believe that, yes.
Okay, good. Good. So that is assessing, Mr. Chairman. We can go to finance, and since our finance director is in the room, Rebecca, would you like to present your department?
Yeah, that's fine. So starting with the compensation, the 2%, like Joe had stated, we added town share for vision and dental. We still do not have, as far as health insurance, neither one of the employees is taking the health insurance, but one is doing the dental and the vision. Also have the increase in computer supplies for laptop.
Let
For,
me interrupt, Rebecca.
yeah,
Would you please identify each line so I'm not flipping and searching?
oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, yes.
Thank you.
We'll go to page 10. There is no significant increases. Everything's really staying the same on page 10. We'll go to page 11 and computer supplies, 1502. That is to purchase a laptop for the finance department, which would come in very handy because I bring my iPad back and forth to work for Zoom meetings. And postage will remain the same. There was an increase in telephone for a cell phone, like Joe had mentioned prior. There's a reduction in repair and maintenance, 2502 to computers. Like he had stated, it's all going into one line in the town office budget. And I reduced the audit from 12,000 to 7,000, but that's a line that we might need to look at. I know we added the TIF division under general government. And we did add audit in there, but it might make sense just to put it under finance to where finance will administer TIF. So just something to look at, but that's it.
Thanks, Rebecca. I just want to point out, Mr. Chair, on page 12, the next page, there is one thing that I'd mentioned, I think a couple of times to the board when we've talked about the geez, what is it called? Time tracking module in 3509 in the software line. That would include the timekeeping system for employees that I'd mentioned before. So that, what was the cost of that, Rebecca? It was, I think, $5,000 or $6,000.
Actually, that was gonna go into the town building budget. The increase in my software is Trio.
Right?
It's just
Okay.
Trio itself right now.
Okay, so they're up 25%.
Well, one of the assessing ones is no longer there, but we incorporated, what was it that we're doing now? We added one more module for finance, but assessing went down, so.
Okay. All right, so when we get to the buildings, we'll see the time tracking module that we talked about before. Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Next item is planning. And I believe our code enforcement officer is here. Bailey, would you like to present?
Yeah, I can present.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start on page 13. We have a large increase in part-time wages as a request for a deputy code enforcement officer at 3 days a week, $17 an hour for the full year. And the note on here is wrong, Rebecca, if you want to adjust that.
Sure will.
Thank you. That's the only thing. So I'm going to move on to page 14. I did a decrease on the mileage reimbursement as we now have a town truck at the office that is available for use. So we that mileage reimbursement is being covered by that. I also decreased meals and lodging. A lot of trainings have switched to online, so having to travel for those is not really going to be a big cost. There's a new line under supplies for safety. So that's going to cover hard hats, vests, high vis vests, boot, things like that. I also have increase in minor equipment. We're looking to purchase a wide format printer scanner for shared use with the planning department and the sewer and public works departments for big plans, 24 by 36, 36 by 48. Then the last thing is on page 16. I increased the budget for advertising because historically we have gone over budget on that. And that's all I have.
Hey, thank you, Bailey. Appreciate that. Just one note that I'd like to add, Mr. Chair, that the deputy CEO, there's a provision for that in the Rangeley Town Code. That position is called for by code, or by ordinance in the code. So we'll go now to the town office building. That begins on page 17. When Rebecca and I went through this, we just looked at the historical things like 1003. We dropped that down to $100, just based on past practice, and we haven't gotten the Sun Journal for a while. That's not a big savings, but there's a little savings there. There's a line here for diesel. That's a new one, if I'm correct. That contributes to the power generator out back, the back stand-up power generator, standby power generator. Safety supplies is a new one with, this is one that it's kind of come to us. 1509 is the standard number for safety supplies. This is in here because of COVID. You can see year to date, we've purchased bulk masks and sanitizer and so forth. That's going to be an ongoing expense. So it's accounted for here in the budget. If we go to page 18, Mr. Chair, at item 1520, we've got the postage meter in there. That's up over last year. So gas is in here now, and Rebecca, correct me if I'm wrong, but we put this in here because the public services director's truck, and we had a good conversation with Keith, and that's what Bailey referred to before, would be available for folks if they're going to do training or code enforcement work, or town manager, so forth. So we thought it made sense to put that fuel line in this budget because it's kind of a community item at this point. So we go now to 2501 for building maintenance. I know that some of this is for any finishing up anything out front that needs to be finished up. Was this, I don't have detailed notes on this, Rebecca or Keith, if you're still here. Was this where we intended to take some of the money for the repairs downstairs for the wiring? Or was that in the reserve?
So the increase in 2502 was for everyone's computers, for the maintenance on everyone's computer.
Back up one.
Yeah, how about 2501?
Oh, sorry. I don't remember.
Okay.
Here, come right here. Come right here, Tom. Okay. Keith's going to his computer. Hang on.
Okay, thank you.
While we're waiting for Keith, go ahead, Rebecca, on 2502. No, Rebecca.
So 2502 is where we put the repair and maintenance of servers and all town office computers. I've mentioned this a couple of times. What we've done is gotten an estimate from Exponet to kind of handle the needs of all the equipment in the building, including the server. So the server is something that, you know, we want to make sure we have on a maintenance program. I see a question, Mr. Chairman, from Denise, and if you don't mind, I would answer that now while we wait for Keith to come back. The question is, why do all departments need cell phones? That's a very good question. And the answer is, COVID has illustrated to me, to us, to all of us, how important it is to be able to communicate with people when they're not actually in the building. And I have had numerous conversations with department heads via telephone when they weren't in the office, and they use them for emails, or they can use them for emails and telephone calls and other communications when they're off-site. And, you know, the other thing is, when we're doing that, they shouldn't, in my opinion, shouldn't be having to use their personal devices for that and have town materials and so forth on their personal devices. So that's why I'm proposing that. So back to 2501. Keith, are you in the room?
I am right now. So 2501, Joe, if I recall correctly, was engineering study for the building.
Thank you.
With that floor hump, we wanted to verify that the foundation was stable and where it needed to be.
Thank you very much, Keith. I appreciate that. That's absolutely correct. I'm glad you took the time to look, because that is an important piece of what's going on. For those of folks who are not aware of it, the town office building has a couple of carrying beams under it. One of them is up and one of them is down, and we want to figure out why before we get too much further down the road.
After Rebecca kudos on that one, she really refreshed the memory on it. So.
Good. Thank you both for your help. Okay, page 19 is a continuation of this division. Really not much else to report there.
Joe, I'm looking at it and I realize that I did not put in the time clock, but I'll get that added. But the total to get it all set up and installed is $6,300. And the annual maintenance and support is $627. And I apologize, I thought I got that in there.
It's okay. That's why we go through this as a group. So 7,000. Okay. That is town office building. Next is the public safety building. Thoughts, Rebecca, on, do you think the chief should present this?
Actually, I mean, there's really nothing, it's the overall budget was a decrease. There was really no changes, or we didn't add any lines. It's an overall decrease in that budget.
Okay, and just a point of information, Mr. Chair, the fire chief will not be present this evening. He has some personal obligations he's taking care of. So we will just note that the overall public safety building proposal is down this year.
Hey, Joe, can I speak real quick?
Sure.
I did speak with EMS this afternoon. Their plan is to move forward with the laundry service. So I don't foresee it necessarily affecting the budget, but there will be a utility difference on that budget.
Okay, I made a note of that. Thank you. Okay, so the next item is the town clerk. And Kayla, I'll ask you if you would like to present.
Sure thing, I can do that. There's not a lot of differences. A little bit of increase in the compensation, not much. The benefit compensation is, Rebecca handled most of that. That's staying basically the same. I did decrease my travel expenses just a little bit, because the same as Bailey, a lot of our trainings are being held via Zoom. So there's not a lot of mileage reimbursement that needs to go along with that. So I decreased that by $200. My training costs are the same. Yearly trainings are staying the same. They're Zoom, but the price has not changed. Other than that, I bumped down my travel. There's not a lot of other changes that we've made to the budget on my end.
Okay, thank you. Just another note in 2502, the same is true with the computers that we mentioned earlier. And that concludes the clerk's budget.
Thank you, guys.
Yep, thank you, Kayla. Appreciate
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Kayla.
Thanks, guys. Happy Friday, Junior.
it. Next item on page 26 is property and casualty. We're proposing a 7% increase, and that's based on information from the insurance folks. The next item is new this year, and it's in there in anticipation of what might happen at town meeting in regards to tax increment financing district. Rebecca recommended that we put this in, and I agree that that was a very good idea. To have something in the budget to get us off the ground in terms of handling the TIF district should it pass. And that has, travel and training. The most of the legwork with this would reside in the finance department. So there would be some training involved. The audit, as Rebecca mentioned, there's some amount in here for the audit, and that could stay here, or it could be removed, relocated back, as she mentioned, to the finance department. Consultant services, that was, if we needed Alyssa's help or someone else's help with consulting moving forward. Advertising, for public hearing notices or just general marketing purposes. So that's a new one, but we put it in to be prepared in case, in the event that this does pass on March 9th, we'll have the framework to be able to administer this for year one and then adjust it as needed based on what we learn in the first year. Next is on page 28 is 1501, which is the fire department. I am not going to present that, Mr. Chair. I would like to extend the courtesy to the chief.
That's fine. Let's go to police.
Okay. Let me find that page. That begins on page 35. And we do have Chief French here tonight. Chief, would you like to present your budget?
Yes, sir. So overall, in a nutshell, the budget's down this year from last year. I'll just go over 6 areas where 6 lines that are down. 1 line went up slightly, but overall the police budget's down from last year. On page 35, if you look at 0502 health insurance, that's the biggest dip, and that's because that line had been over budgeted for Tyler Fournier. He gets private or different fringe benefit health benefits through his military background. So that's been reduced quite a bit this year. Down to travel and training expenses, line 1001. That's been reduced to 500 from 750. On page 37, office supplies, 1501. That's been reduced to 400 from 500. On the same page, postage has reduced, which is 1504. That's been reduced from 150 to 100. Hold on one second. That's my son trying to get me, as he seems to get me in every meeting. On On that same page, 1509, safety supplies, that's been reduced to $600 from $700. And that was line 1509. On page 38, minor equipment, that line was also reduced by $100. The only line that has gone up is on that page. That's repairs and maintenance, and that will go to vehicles, 2503. We've added $1,000 to that line to cover the cost of vehicle repairs. And overall, on page 39, you can see the difference in the budget. So that's where that's a nutshell of the police budget.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. Would you like to also discuss animal control?
Yes, sir. So animal control, there's one change which I have control over, and that's the very first line on page 40. Under compensation, it's line 0105 stipends. And town manager and I talked about this, and this really results from last year's meeting with the budget committee. They questioned why the animal control officer stipends remained what it's been at for so long, and we increased that by $500. Just for your consideration. That's it.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. Okay. Next item on the agenda is public safety. That's page 42. This is the contract with North Star. There is a 3.2% increase. Went from 64,436 to 66,495. And that is there's a percentage increase in all of the member communities this year, not just Rangeley.
Chief, when was the last time we had a contract review? Excuse me, Joe, I apologize.
It has been a
Let
while.
me just say this, Joe. Could you have that for our next selectmen's meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me make a note of that. The next item is fire hydrants. This is on page 43. That is the same as this year. So there's no change in the fire protection services or the hydrant rental, so-called. Next item, Mr. Chair, is on page 44. That is the health officer. What Fire Chief Bacon and I and Rebecca talked about was kind of making this a freestanding department, given the amount of items that this position now oversees. And this is the result of that. So we've got compensation there of $2,600. And then, of course, the benefits, there is some training costs and a mileage reimbursement in there in case this person has to make site visits, which does happen from time to time. We did include a cell phone in this, as you can see. So the total here is $3,800, if I'm reading that correctly, for the health officer. And I believe that's the last one on the agenda for tonight. So again, just to recap, my vision for this is to, when you convene again, to have a follow-up or a continuation of the operating accounts, including the fire department, all of public works, which will take some time. And then after that, I would like to go over to capital programs after all the operations have been discussed. That is my vision, Mr. Chairman, of how we would proceed.
A couple of things that occur to me, and then I'll open it up to the board. First of all, thank you very much, Denise, for being part of this thing, but we've got to get the rest of the confirmation from the rest of the budget committee whether they're going to attend or be able to attend, or if these timeframes are bad, something that gives them a quorum as well too. It's certainly not fair for just one person. Let me start with Shelley. Any questions? Let us review it. What do you want to do, Shelley? Hi, Shelley, I can't hear you.
I know because I can't hit the stupid button. My finger's too fat. So no, I have no questions right now.
Cindy?
Yeah, I don't have anything either. It will, be nice just to go back through what was reviewed tonight.
Yeah, let's all take a close look at this thing. I appreciate all the presenters. And Joe, before we leave, let's pick a date.
I would recommend the 18th, which is a week from today,
Okay.
5 o'clock, if that works. We will reach out to the budget committee folks tomorrow by phone and check with them.
So just so you guys know, Ethna did call and said she couldn't make it tonight, and Kyle got stuck at work, and I have not heard from Cash.
Okay, thank you for that, because I was getting mad. No, I'm kidding, I wasn't.
So, and one more thing, you guys notice in your binders that you don't have all the donation request information, like financials and stuff. If you go to the website, it's all been added to the website. So you can review the financials and not just the application.
I know this is more work for you, but why can't we have it in our binder? Can I just ask that?
Because it was 300 and something pages long. You can.
No, I understand what you're saying now. Their total financials, okay, I don't want that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for that clarification.
Yeah.
I thought you were slacking off on us, Rebecca.
Yeah.
All right, we all set for the 18th at 5 o'clock?
Yes.
All right, one other thing. If we get notification that 2/3 of the budget committee can't make it, there's absolutely no sense for us to do this on that day. We're just spinning our wheels. I think the board knows where they want to go, but we need to have, an agreement with them and such. Yes, Shelley? You had your hand up. Leave it on, Shelley.
I was telling my husband not to eat something. Sorry.
All right, then. All right. We all set then? Chief, you all set?
Yes, sir.
Bailey, you all set?
I'm all set.
Okay, I'm gonna make one request of all of you. I don't care if your hair is bad, if you're in your PJs or where you are. I would like to see faces, or it doesn't make any sense for me to be here. So click your faces on next time. I want to thank Cindy for doing that, and Shelley and Chief and Joe. The rest of you, I want to see your faces, please. It's just a nice request. It would make my life easier. There you go. Thank you. I don't think that's unreasonable. If there's nothing else, I need a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one other item. Sorry to interrupt you.
Nope,
Tracy had asked that I ask the board members to drop off your packet pouches if you haven't done so already, please. Thank you.
Hey, everybody, Denise did write on a comment that she had one suggestion of maybe changing the time.
Denise, give me a suggestion, please. And you haven't called me, by the way. Thank you. Type it out. What's your suggestion? We're waiting for her to type. I'm sure she's going at it. 3 in the afternoon, Denise? 6 in the morning? All right, we're gonna let somebody else worry about that. She's not typing. I think she left us. Is she there?
Yeah, she's still here.
She's there. Hello, Denise.
Give me 1 second and I'll call her again.
She's calling me. Hang on.
Oh,
Yes, dear. What time do you suggest? Okay, give me a suggestion.
I can hear what she's saying.
Okay, Denise is suggesting 6 o'clock so that others can get out of work. Cindy,
It's fine with me.
6 o'clock it is then, on the 18th. Okay, Denise, thank you for calling me. Yep, bye-bye.
Change it.
6 o'clock on the 18th. By the way, I get time and a half after 5. I just thought I'd throw it out there. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Have a good night.
You too. Appreciate it all.